The first type of method, and probably the one that people are most familiar with, is called a simple random sample. In a simple random sample, each individual and each group of n individuals in the population have an equally likely chance of being selected. There's three ways in general of choosing a simple random sample. One is a fairly non-technical way, and I'm going to use the example below here to illustrate those. So let's just look at this example. The management company of a local mall plans to survey a random sample of 3 stores to determine the hours they would like to stay open during the holiday season. Okay, so there's a group of 21 stores here. So method 1, which is called the hat method, is just to write the name of each store on a separate slip of paper, identical slips of paper, put all of those slips of papers into a hat or a bag or some kind of container, stir them up, draw out 3 of them, and then use those 3 for your sample. So we're going to look at when we describe this using the method label, choose, and use. So label, create labels by putting the name of each store on a piece of paper. Choose, okay, we put them all in the hat, stir them up, choose 3. Then use those 3 as your sample. I would like you to fill in the notes with an explanation of this method by looking at page 214 under the definition of random sampling. Using technology, this is in a box on page 215. When we're using technology, all the labels have to be numerical. So we're going to say label the stores 1 through 21. Then use a random number generator, in our case would probably be the calculator, to choose 3 different numbers from 1 to 21. And then those three stores whose numbers correspond to the chosen numbers will be my sample. It's very important to say different numbers because I don't want to use a repeated number, because that would choose one store more than once. Okay, using a random digit table, we're going to come down to that example below, so I'm not going to go through that, but the instructions are on page 216. Now, something before we talk about that we have to also need to explain is there are 2 different types of sampling. Sampling with replacement, in other words, any individual, for example, if we use the hat method, choosing an individual out of the hat and then recording their name and then putting them back up in the hat and stirring it around again, they could be chosen more than once. Okay? Sampling without replacement means that once somebody's chosen, they don't go back in the hat. They can only be chosen one time. Now, when would you might want to sample with replacement? Well, maybe I want to generate random telephone numbers. Okay, so I would want to randomly generate 10 digits, area code and the 7-digit telephone, 10 digits from 0 to 9. And I would want to be able to use some of the digits more than once because people have repeated digits in their telephone number. So that might be a case where sampling with replacement would make sense. Sampling without replacement is frequently done. So if you are sampling without replacement, it's very important to say in your instructions, omit repeated numbers or choose blank different numbers, like choose 3 different numbers or choose 3 unique numbers, but in some kind of language that indicating that you are not repeating any of the numbers that you choose or not repeating any of the slips of paper that you draw. Another thing just to show you here is that typically a capital letter N is used to denote population size and sample size is a small letter n. So in this case we have a population big N of 21 stores and we want to sample little n of 3 stores. So now we're going to look at how to use a random number table to collect the sample. So in a random number table, you have rows of digits, numbers, and I'm going to actually erase this so you can see more step by step what I did here. Each store has to be assigned a unique number with the same number of digits. So since there are 21 stores, I'm going to say assign each store a 2-digit number from 01 to 21. Now the reason they all have to be 2-digit numbers is because I want each number to have an equally likely chance of being chosen. And if some stores have a 1-digit number and other stores have a 2-digit number, the stores with 1-digit numbers are going to be chosen more often. They will have a higher chance of being chosen than a store with a 2-digit number as we move across the table. So they all have to have the same number of digits. If I had 100 stores, so I'm just going to write here note. For 100, you're going to use the number 00. Okay, so we would use 0, 1 through 99, and then 00 would be my 100th number. Now if I have more than 100, then I would need 3-digit numbers. If I have 10 or less in my population that I'm drawing from, I would only need 1-digit numbers. So use however many digits you need, but as the minimum number that you need. Now so that's my labeling step. My label is assign each store a 2-digit number from 01 to 21. My choose step is go across the random digit, that's supposed to say random digit table, go across the random digit table, selecting 2-digit numbers until you get 3 different numbers between 0, 1, and 2, 1. Okay, so I don't want to get any repeated numbers, so I have to say 3 different numbers. Then I also have to say what to do with the numbers that aren't between 0, 1, and 2, 1. So I have to say omit numbers 22 to 00 and any repeated numbers. So that's very specific. Whenever you give instructions for a procedure in AP Statistics, you need to be specific enough that someone can exactly duplicate your process with no ambiguity. Then this is my label, choose, and then use. Use the stores with those 3 numbers as your sample. So let me show how I chose these three particular stores. So my first number is 19. 19 is a number between 0, 1, and 2, 1, so I have my first store. The second number is 22, so that's not between 0 and 2, 1, so I omit it. The third number is 39. Okay, so that also has been rejected. The fourth number is 50 and then 34, so I cross those off also because they're not in my range. Then I have 05, so that's my second store. So that's how I got Carter's for Kids. So I have Star Jewelers, Carter's for Kids. Then 75 is crossed out, then 62 is crossed out, then 87 is crossed out, and then I get my third one, and that is 13, and then I'm done. So that's how you use a random digit table to select a random sample. In our next video, then we'll be looking at other types of sampling methods that are also legitimate methods.